Hi there, I'm Davey Cretin. Welcome to Cretin Classics. This video is going to be a little different. Remember back in the days when people actually wrote letters to people? Handwritten letters with pen on paper? You'd write someone a letter, put it in an envelope, seal the envelope, put their name on the front, your return address, the stamp, and mail it by the United States Post Office. Well, here in America anyway. So this is sort of a letter that I've written. It's a bit of a rant, but it's more of a personal letter to Mr. Jimmy Page, famous for Led Zeppelin and other stuff, as you'll hear about in this video. So I have the letter here that I've written to Mr. Jimmy Page. Dear Mr. Jimmy Page, I love you. We love you. Led Zeppelin's fan base. But what have you done for us lately? Breadcrumbs. A small trail of breadcrumbs. While Kiss, the Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead, and many other bands have opened up their vaults and given their fans plenty to chew on, Led Zeppelin fans are left with table scraps, or the aforementioned breadcrumbs. Let's discuss what you've done since Led Zeppelin splintered in late 1980. So we're going to take a brief overview of the past 45 years of your career, Mr. Jimmy Page. In 1981, you did some demos with a project called XYZ. It stood for X Yes, X Zeppelin members. You tried to get Robert Plant to sing, but he was so distraught, obviously, and with every intention, every right, to be distraught over the passing of his good friend John Bonham, he didn't come down. He didn't perform with the band. So it was you and two ex-members of Yes, Chris Squire on bass, also recently passed away sadly, and even more recently, Alan White, the drummer from Yes, Chris Squire being the bass player for decades with Yes. Also in this project was a gentleman named Dave Lawson, who was one of the keyboard players in the 70s progressive rock band Greenslade. They released about 5 really good albums. Two keyboard players, Dave Lawson, Dave Greenslade. There was a bass player and a drummer, no guitars. So pretty good prog stuff. Check it out if people out there haven't listened to it. Getting back to this project, there were demos made. They were never officially released, but somehow they got out there, and they were sort of plundered by you, Mr. Jimmy Page. One of the demos became a song, I think it was Fortune Hunter on the Firm album, which we'll get to in a moment. Yes used it. They used one for the song Mind Drive. They used another instrumental demo for a song called Can You See from the Magnification album, but that's neither here nor there. So you did these demos in 1981. Next up, in February of 1982, the soundtrack to the film Death Wish 2, starring Charles Bronson, was released. Music done by you, Mr. Jimmy Page. Later on, November of 82, you curated and put out an album called Coda by Led Zeppelin, unreleased songs from 1969 to 1979 as a tribute to John. And there's some great stuff on there. So the fans, we do appreciate that Coda came out in 1982. So 1982 was a busy year for you. Pardon me. Moving on to February of 1985, the debut album by The Firm, a supergroup of sorts, with you, Mr. Jimmy Page, on guitar, Paul Rodgers, who had just gotten out of Bad Company recently, on lead vocals, some keyboards, some guitar here and there, Chris Slade, formerly of Manfred Mann's Earth Band, on drums, and the bass monster himself, Tony Franklin, the fretless monster himself, on fretless bass guitar, and a great hairstyle too. Debut Firm album was really good. Some great stuff on there. Satisfaction Guaranteed, amazing song. Moving on, a month later in March of 1985, Roy Harper and Jimmy Page, an album called Whatever Happened to Jugula, Jugula, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, ? Was released. So within 2 months, 2 albums from you. Moving on to 1986, the second Firm album called Mean Business. The Firm, Mean Business. Clever title there. That came out. Has a really great song that Paul had done on his solo album a few years before called Cut Loose was the name of Paul Rodgers' solo album. And the song Live in Peace. Awesome song. Also had a big single on rock radio called All the King's Horses. Next in 1988, you released an album that I just played as I was finalizing my letter, so to speak. An album called Outrider came out on Geffen Records, 1988. A one-and-done solo album because you haven't released anything since. And Outrider was good, and you toured it. And I saw you, Mr. Jimmy Page. I saw you live in concert at the Nassau Coliseum, Long Island, New York, with my good friend Joe from the record store we worked at together, Titus Oaks. We saw you in 1988, probably more 1989 when the tour happened. His brother Steve went with us, and we had a great time. You did a lot of stuff from Outrider. You did a lot of cool Led Zeppelin deep cuts. Where's that second solo album? Moving on to 1993, 5 years later, Coverdale Page. You and David Coverdale did a record, came out on Geffen Records. Another one and done. Really good album. I like almost every song on that album. Feeling Hot, a little too white snaky for me. That's probably my least favorite cut on there. And I know that's sacrilegious to say because you play some smoking guitar. It's just a tad too white snaky for me. But the rest of the album, phenomenal. There was a tour of Japan. Nothing else ever happened. The album went platinum in the States. 5 years later, you released an album with Robert Plant. Page and Plant, Walking into Clarksdale. Came out on CD. You toured. Was another one and done project. That was the only full studio album you guys released of new material. Then in 2012 on vinyl only, Mr. Jimmy Page released Lucifer Rising and other soundtracks. Vinyl only. I was working in a record store. Super hard to track down. I think you had to mail order it from you, if I remember correctly. So if you include the XYZ demos, which were only, I think, 4 or 5 songs, that's 10 albums of new material in 45 years. And Coda, the Led Zeppelin album, that was stuff that was in the vaults that you rated. So technically it wasn't new stuff, it was older, unheard stuff. If I added 11 songs from 1985 to 2022, which I would tack onto the XYZ demos, that's still only 10 full albums of new music over a 45-year period. That averages out to 1 new album of music every 4.5 years. 1 new album of music every 4.5 years. I want to make that point stick, and I want people to think about that. I want you to think about that, Mr. Jimmy Page. After 9 albums of brand new Led Zeppelin music from 1969 to 1979, we all know Physical Graffiti was a double album, so I'm counting that as 2 albums. Frankly, 10 albums over a 45-year period simply pales in comparison. Now, I know that you are the curator of Led Zeppelin's legacy, you're in charge of the vaults, and that you've released multiple box sets over the years. You've remastered the catalog a few times, 3, I think, 1990, early 2000s, and then again 2014. A few live albums here and there, couple of live DVDs. Not a lot of rarities. The demos of songs were released on the 2014 remasters, but it's demos of stuff that the fan base knew the songs, the existing songs already. And especially individual live concerts, fans need to sink their teeth into those. Those aren't out there. They're out there unofficially. But why aren't they out there officially when other bands are putting their stuff out officially? I understand now that there may be a dearth of unreleased Led Zeppelin songs, but there is a way to satiate your rabid fan base. A line of official Led Zeppelin concert series CDs, maybe even LPs, for the vinyl junkies out there. With greatly improved sound, audio quality, better packaging, and I'm sure you have a wealth of photos, you'll be beating the bootleggers at their own game. People won't care about them anymore. If something's out officially, they don't want the bootleg. They want the official product. They want the stuff that looks good and sounds great. So many artists are doing this. Even Frank Zappa had a series called Beat the Bootlegs, and it went over like a storm with his fan base. It's back when I was working in the record stores. Come on, Jimmy, if I may call you that. We all know that you're sitting on a veritable treasure trove of material. It's in the vaults. How about talking to Paul Rodgers about releasing some live Firm concerts from back in the day? What about speaking to old Gov Cov, David Coverdale, about releasing officially those Japanese concerts? I think there were about half a dozen or so, 5 or 6 back in 1993, 1994. They've never been out there for the public. Outrider, I told you, I saw the tour. You toured the States, probably the world even, or at least England and Europe. Where's an Outrider solo concert? You co-wrote all those Led Zeppelin songs. You could easily put that out, and the fans would love it. They would love this stuff. And lastly, I know this is a pipe dream, but to me, a huge Yes fan. So besides being such a huge Zeppelin fan, what about those original XYZ demos? Speak to the families of Mr. White, Mr. Squire, get their consent. The fans would love the XYZ demos officially with cleaned up sound as well. Or is that too much to ask for? Maybe that last thing goes over the line a little. But everything else, that's within your power, Mr. Jimmy Page. The fans would love this stuff. Personally, I think a full line of individual concerts would bring a lot of eyes to Led Zeppelin, a lot of ears to Led Zeppelin. Give the fans what they want. Live Led. That's what they really want. Thank you for your time and patience, Mr. Jimmy Page. I appreciate it. The fan base appreciates it. Davey Cretin and your fan base, we all love you. And we just want to hear some live Zeppelin. That's about it. Davey Cretin for Cretin Classics here. Rock out, prog on, and pogo. It's my mantra and my logo at the end of most of my videos. Like, subscribe, comment below. Do you have any other ideas what Jimmy Page could do to make his fans love him more and get some more material out there? What's your favorite Zeppelin album? What's your least favorite Zeppelin album? Hey, one of the first videos I did on Cretin Classics, is a Led Zeppelin album ranking. I think it was my second ranking video back in the day, about 2 years ago. I never mentioned it, but I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary on YouTube. Davey Cretin for Cretin Classics, over and out. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.